Jonathan Hayes, a 35-year-old white American with pale skin and sharp green eyes, adjusted his tailored navy suit as he stepped into the gleaming lobby of Seattle's Harborview Medical Center. At 6'2", his presence commanded attention, a byproduct of years building a tech empire worth $200 million. Yet today, his broad shoulders tensed with unease, not from boardroom battles, but from a routine checkup he'd postponed for months. The sterile scent of antiseptic stung his nose, mingling with the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead. He was here for his heart, ironic, considering the one beating in his chest had been broken for 7 years. At the reception desk, a nurse smiled warmly. "Mr. Hayes, Dr. Jackson will see you in the cardiology wing. Room 3, please." Jonathan nodded, his polished Italian leather shoes clicking against the linoleum as he headed down the pristine corridor. Dr. Jackson. The name didn't register at first, lost in the fog of his distracted thoughts. His mind was on the latest acquisition deal, a $600 million offer from Tokyo's Yamamoto Group, and the relentless pressure from his board to relocate. But as he neared room 3, a familiar fragrance, floral warm, like jasmine in summer, stopped him cold. He froze in the doorway, his breath catching as if the air had been sucked from the room. There she was, Dr. Amara Jackson, 34 years old. Her rich, deep brown skin glowing under the soft light. Her natural hair pulled back in a sleek bun that accentuated her high cheekbones. Her white coat flowed over her curves, contrasting with the vibrant woman he'd loved in college. She stood with her back to him, reviewing a chart, her movements precise, yet graceful, like a dancer in a lab coat. The nameplate on her desk gleamed, Dr. Amara Jackson, cardiologist. His heart, the one he'd come to have checked, thudded painfully against his ribs. 7 years, 4 months, and 12 days. Jonathan could have calculated it to the minute since he'd last seen her, the woman who'd haunted his dreams and turned his empire into hollow numbers on a screen. At 28, he'd walked away from Amara convinced that ambition was the only path to worthiness. Now, at 35, he stood anchored to this moment, his pale hands clenching at his sides, regretting every choice that had led him away from her. Hey folks, before we dive deeper into Jonathan's story, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from, Seattle, New York, or maybe across the globe. It'd mean the world to hear from you. The narrator's voice, warm and inviting, seemed to echo in his mind, pulling him briefly from his reverie. Amara turned her clipboard, slipping slightly as her deep brown eyes met his. Shock widened them, then narrowed into a guarded veil of pain and anger. "Jonathan," she said, her voice a velvet blade slicing through the silence. His name on her lips was both prayer and curse, stirring memories of late-night talks and tangled sheets. "Amara." He managed his voice rough, barely above a whisper. The room seemed to shrink, the hum of medical equipment fading into a distant buzz. 7 years of silence stretched between them, a chasm neither knew how to cross. She was more beautiful than he remembered her confidence, a crown earned through years of triumph. Her dark skin, radiant against the white coat, spoke of resilience, a woman who'd built a life without him. "Mama, look at my bridge." A small voice piped up from the corner, shattering the tension. Jonathan's gaze darted to a 6-year-old girl, sitting at a child-sized table. Her warm brown skin a mirror of Amara's, but her green eyes, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Nia Jackson. Her name tag read, her small hands clutching a crayon as she sketched an intricate design. Her hair in neat braids adorned with colorful beads bounced as she tilted her head, studying him. "Is he the sick man, Mama? Are you gonna fix his heart?" Jonathan's chest tightened, the air growing thick. Nia's question, innocent yet piercing, echoed in his mind. Fix his heart. If only it were that simple. Amara knelt beside her daughter, her professional mask sliding into place. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Keep coloring. Okay, Mama needs to work. Her voice was strained, her eyes flicking to Jonathan, watching him piece together the truth in Nia's face, the dimple in her chin, the tilt of her head, the green eyes that mirrored his own. If you love this emotional roller coaster, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to join our Soulful Narratives family. Your support keeps these stories coming. The narrator's prompt felt like a gentle nudge, grounding the moment in its storytelling context. Jonathan cleared his throat, his pale fingers brushing his suit jacket. Dr. Jackson, your appointment is ready. The receptionist's voice cut through, oblivious to the storm between them. Amara straightened her posture rigid. Mr. Hayes, please follow me to room 3. The formality stung worse than a slap, as if they were strangers, as if he hadn't once known every dream she'd whispered in the dark. He followed her down the hallway, his eyes drawn to the confident click of her heels, the sway of her hips, the way she carried herself like she owned the world. She'd grown into her power, become the cardiologist she'd always dreamed of at 27, when they'd planned a future together. The examination room was small and clinical, and its sterility starkly contrasted with the heat of their history. Amara busied herself with his chart, avoiding his gaze, but Jonathan saw the slight tremor in her dark hands. Please sit on the table, she said, her voice steady but clipped. I'll check your heart and lungs and take your blood pressure. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. She was about to listen to the heart he'd broken, the one that had started beating again the moment he saw her. Jonathan shrugged off his jacket, rolling his sleeves, hyper-aware of every movement. When Amara approached with her stethoscope, her jasmine scent enveloped him, dizzying him with memories of their past. Deep breath. She instructed her fingers, brushing his chest through his shirt. His pulse raced, betraying him. She noted that your heart rate is elevated, her tone neutral, but her jaw is tight. I wonder why, he murmured, earning a flash of fire in her eyes. She completed the exam in silence, her touch professional yet gentle, and Jonathan memorized every second how she bit her lip when focused, the furrow between her brows. Everything seems normal, she said, stepping back. Blood pressure is slightly high, likely due to stress. I'll need you back next week for tests, blood work, EKG, and a standard for your lifestyle. Her words carried an edge, a reminder of the high-stakes world he'd chosen over her. Dr. Jackson, Amara. He tried, but she cut him off. Please, let's keep this professional. The boundary was clear, a wall he'd built with his cowardice. As she turned to leave, Nia's voice drifted from the waiting area. Mama is the sad man. Okay. Jonathan closed his eyes, the weight of her words crushing him. Amara paused at the door, her hand on the handle. She's 6, she said, without turning her voice low. In case you were wondering. With that, she was gone, leaving Jonathan alone with the devastating truth. He had a daughter, and the woman he'd never stopped loving was raising her without him. Wow. What a start, right? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jonathan can win Amara back? And don't forget to like and subscribe for more heart-tugging tales. The narrator's voice faded, leaving the echo of Nia's question and the promise of a story just beginning. The examination room at Harborview Medical Center felt like a pressure chamber, its clinical white walls closing in on Jonathan Hayes as he sat on the paper-covered table. The faint beep of a heart monitor somewhere down the hall punctuated the silence, a cruel reminder of the organ Amara Jackson was about to examine. His heart battered not by disease, but by 7 years of regret. Amara stood across from him, her white coat a barrier, her hands gripping his chart with a steadiness that belied the slight tremor he noticed in her fingers. Her deep brown eyes avoided his, fixed on the paperwork, as if it held the answers to the chasm between them. Jonathan's throat tightened. He'd faced venture capitalists and hostile boardrooms, but nothing compared to this moment. Amara. He said her name, slipping out like a plea, breaching the professional distance she'd enforced in the waiting area. Her jaw clenched, and she carefully set the chart down, finally meeting his gaze. The fire in her eyes was tempered by something softer, pain raw and unguarded. "Mr. Hayes," she corrected, her voice crisp, but laced with an edge that cut deeper than he expected. "Let's keep this professional. I need to complete your examination." She reached for her stethoscope, but Jonathan leaned forward, desperate to bridge the gap. "Please, Amara, can we talk?" "Talk." His words hung in the air, heavy with everything unsaid. Her hands paused, the stethoscope dangling from her neck like a lifeline she wasn't sure she wanted to grab. "What's there to talk about?" she asked, her tone sharp but brittle, like glass on the verge of shattering. "You made your choices 7 years ago. You left, end of story." Jonathan flinched, the truth of her words a physical blow. "I never stopped thinking about you," he said quietly, his green eyes searching hers. "Not a single day." Her laugh was short, bitter, devoid of humor. "Thinking isn't the same as staying, Jonathan. Thinking doesn't answer voicemails or show up when someone needs you." She turned away, busying herself with the chart again, but he saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers tightened around the pen. "Hey folks, this moment's intense, right? Drop a comment below. Do you think Amara should hear Jonathan out? Your thoughts fuel our stories, so hit that like button and subscribe to Soulful Narratives for more." The narrator's voice broke through, a gentle nudge that pulled the audience into the drama without disrupting its flow. Jonathan swallowed hard, his hands clenching the edge of the table. "I know I hurt you. I know I was a coward. But when I saw Nia out there..." His voice cracked, and Amara's head snapped up, her eyes wide with alarm. "Don't," she warned, stepping closer, her voice low and fierce. "Don't dare bring her into this until you understand what you're asking for. She's mine, isn't she?" The question wasn't accusatory, but a quiet realization, heavy with awe and devastation. Nia's green eyes, the dimple in her chin, the way she tilted her head, it was like looking into a mirror of his childhood. Amara's silence was answer enough, but she nodded once, a jerky motion that seemed to cost her everything. "She's 6, Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper. 6 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, and science projects. 6 years of being her everything, mother, father, protector. And you weren't there for any of it." The words landed like a punch, stealing his breath. He'd suspected it the moment he saw Nia, but hearing it confirmed the mathematics of her age aligning with his departure made the room spin. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, not blaming her, but needing to understand. Amara's eyes blazed, her composure slipping. "Tell you I called you for weeks." Jonathan, 43 voicemails, each more desperate than the last. "I discovered I was pregnant 2 days after you signed with Meridian Group. I wanted to tell you in person, to see your face when you heard we would be a family. But you were gone. Your phone went to voicemail. Your apartment was empty, and your landlord said you'd broken the lease. You vanished like I was nothing." Jonathan's chest ached, memories of those voicemails flooding back. He'd saved everyone and listened to them in the dark of his Silicon Valley studio, her voice breaking as she begged for answers. But he'd been drowning in the demands of his startup, convinced that responding would only make leaving harder. "I thought I was protecting you," he said, his voice raw. "The investors wanted everything, every hour, every thought. I couldn't give you the life you deserved while building the company. Protecting me." Amara's voice rose, then dropped to a harsh whisper, mindful of the thin walls. "You decided I wasn't worth fighting for. You decided our love wasn't worth the effort. Do you know what it was like? Waking up alone, realizing the man I loved had erased me from his life. Finding out I was carrying your child while grieving the future. We planned. Jonathan stood unable to stay seated under the weight of her words. I never erased you. I listened to every message, Amara. I kept them all. But I thought if I called and heard your voice, I'd come running back and fail you both by not succeeding. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears away, refusing to let them fall. You failed us by leaving. You failed us by making that choice alone. I would have followed you anywhere, Jonathan. I would have built a life with you, startup or not. But you didn't give me the chance. The silence was deafening, broken only by Nia's voice drifting from the waiting area. Mama. I made the bridge fly. Her cheerful innocence sliced through the tension, a reminder of the stakes beyond their pain. Amara's face softened briefly, then hardened again, as she looked at Jonathan. She's incredible, he said, his voice thick with emotion. She's brilliant, and I missed it all because of my stupidity. Amara agreed that she is incredible, and her tone is fierce. And she doesn't need disruption in her life. She needs stability, people who won't disappear when things get tough. Can you promise that, Jonathan? Can you swear you won't break her heart like you broke mine? He opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. He wanted to promise, to vow he'd never leave again, but the doubt in her eyes stopped him. He'd already proven himself unreliable once. I want to try, he said finally, the honesty raw. I want to be the man you both deserve. Amara studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Wanting isn't enough, she said. I'll schedule your follow-up tests. Don't miss them. Consistency matters. She turned to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. Take care of yourself, Jonathan. For her sake, if not your own. As the door clicked shut, Jonathan sank back onto the table, the weight of her words crushing him. Outside, he heard Nia ask, "Is the sad man better now?" And Amara's murmured reply, too soft to catch. He closed his eyes, the image of Nia's green eyes burning behind his lids. He had a daughter, and the woman he'd never stopped loving was raising her alone because of him. The fluorescent lights of Howard University's medical library buzzed softly, casting a sterile glow over Amara Jackson's textbooks, their pages worn from late-night study sessions. It was 2018, 7 years ago, and the weight of her world rested on her shoulders. Her laptop screen flickered with anatomy diagrams, but her eyes drifted to the ultrasound photo taped to her notebook. A grainy image of a tiny heartbeat, the only piece of Jonathan Hayes she had left. At 3 months pregnant, her body was a battleground of nausea and determination. Her heart, a war zone of grief and resolve. Amara's fingers traced the photo, the jasmine scent of her lotion mingling with the library's musty air. She discovered her pregnancy 2 days after Jonathan's disappearance. His note, a cowardly scribble about opportunities and love, still crumpled in her desk drawer. She'd called him 43 times each voicemail, a plea for answers, until his silence confirmed he'd chosen his tech empire over their future. Now in the quiet of the library, she steeled herself. She was 27. A black woman in a field that often questioned her place, and she refused to let his absence define her. Hey, Soulful Narratives fans. We're diving into Amara's past, which is powerful. Comment and tell us about a time you pushed through a tough moment. Your stories inspire us, so hit that like button and subscribe. The narrator's voice wove seamlessly into the scene, inviting the audience to connect with Amara's resilience. Her days were full of lectures, clinical rotations, and part-time shifts at a campus coffee shop. Microaggressions stung a professor's raised eyebrow when she aced an exam, a classmate's assumption she was on scholarship, but Amara channeled them into fuel. She'd grown up in a working-class Seattle neighborhood, and her mother was a nurse who'd taught her that grit outshone doubt. At night, she studied in her dorm, one hand on her growing belly, whispering to her unborn child, "We will make it, little one, just you and me." When Nia was born in a rainy March, after 22 hours of labor, Amara held her daughter's tiny body and wept. Nia's green eyes, like Jonathan's, gazed up at her, and Amara felt a love so fierce it drowned out the pain of his abandonment. She'd refused to call her mother during labor, too proud to admit how alone she felt. But when Nia's first cry filled the room, Amara knew she'd found her purpose. She named her Nia, meaning purpose in Swahili, a nod to her heritage and the promise of a brighter future. Medical school with a newborn was a gauntlet. Amara juggled feedings and flashcards, and her mother's occasional visits were a lifeline. One night, rocking Nia to sleep in their cramped apartment, Amara faced a low moment. Bills piled up, her scholarship barely covering rent, and a professor had dismissed her research proposal as ambitious but unfocused. Tears fell as she whispered to Nia, "I don't know if I'm enough." But Nia's tiny hand gripped her finger, and Amara found the strength to keep going. Her breakthrough came during a cardiology presentation. Standing before her peers, Amara outlined a novel approach to valve repair, her voice steady despite sleepless nights. The room fell silent, then erupted in applause, her professor nodding with rare approval. He said, "Well done, Jackson," and Amara felt a spark of pride. She was proving her place not just for herself, but for Nia, for every black woman who'd been underestimated. Hey, viewers, isn't Amara's strength inspiring? Share in the comments what motivates you to keep pushing forward. Don't forget to smash that like button and join our Soulful Narratives family with a subscribe. The narrator's prompt echoed, pulling the audience into Amara's triumph. By the time Nia was 3, Amara was in residency, and her days were a whirlwind of hospital shifts and bedtime stories. She taught Nia about the heart's chambers, turning science into games, and her daughter's curiosity was her mirror. Amara volunteered at a community health fair, offering free screenings to families like hers. A grandmother hugged her, saying, "You're a blessing, child." Amara smiled, thinking of Nia's braids bouncing as she colored nearby her daughter's presence, a reminder of why she fought. The flashback faded, and Amara stood in the present, back in Harborview's cardiology wing, clipboard in hand. Jonathan's reappearance had shaken her, but this memory of building a life for Nia, of carving her path, reminded her of her strength. She'd survived without him, thrived even, and her career was a testament to her resilience. Yet as she glanced at Nia's drawing of a sky bridge in the waiting area, she wondered if Jonathan's return could bridge the gap he'd left, or if it would only widen it. Amara's fingers tightened around her pen. She'd faced worse than Jonathan's regret: skeptical professors, sleepless nights, a world that sometimes saw her skin before her skill. But Nia's green eyes, so like his complicated things. Could she trust him not to break her daughter's heart? Could she risk her own so carefully rebuilt? As she prepared for her next patient, Amara felt the weight of her past and the uncertainty of her future, knowing that whatever came next, she'd face it with the same strength that had carried her through. Jonathan Hayes stood in the bustling lobby of Harborview Medical Center, his tailored suit feeling out of place among the hum of nurses and patients. It was a crisp Seattle morning, and he'd arrived 30 minutes early for his follow-up blood work. Though he admitted it wasn't just efficiency driving him, he craved another glimpse of Amara Jackson, the 6-year-old girl whose green eyes had upended his world. The antiseptic scent lingered, but his focus locked onto the children's corner, where Nia sat alone, her braids adorned with blue beads, as she hunched over a sketchpad. Her small fingers gripped a crayon drawing with fierce concentration, her brow furrowed in a way that tugged at Jonathan's memory, his childhood focus on model rockets. A scattering of coloring books and markers surrounded her, evidence of a routine born of her mother's demanding shifts. Amara was having a cardiac procedure, the receptionist had said, leaving Nia to wait for the daycare van. Jonathan's chest tightened at the thought of his daughter adapting to such independence. We're stepping into Nia's world today. Soulful Narratives fans, it's special. Drop a comment and share what you loved creating as a kid. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with this heartfelt story. The narrator's voice wove in, inviting the audience to connect with Nia's creativity. Jonathan approached hesitantly, his polished shoes silent on the carpet. Mind if I join you? He asked, crouching to her level. Nia looked up, her green eyes bright with recognition. You're the sad man from last time, she chirped, her bluntness catching him off guard. You don't look as sad today. Did Mama fix your heart yet? He smiled, settling into a child-sized chair, his knees comically high. She's working on it, he said, the truth behind his words heavier than she could know. What are you drawing? Nia held up her sketch, a vibrant design of a bridge stretching into the clouds labeled Sky Bridge. It's for families, she explained, her voice earnest. Sometimes people have to move far away for work, like my friend Tasha's dad. This bridge flies to them so they don't have to be apart. Jonathan's throat tightened. Her innocent solution to separation, a problem he'd caused, felt like a quiet rebuke. That's brilliant, he said, his voice rough. Have you shown your mom? Not yet. She's busy saving hearts. Nia set the crayon down, studying him with unsettling directness. Do you have a family? The question pierced him, sharp and unexpected. It's complicated, he admitted, searching for words a child could grasp. I had someone I loved a lot, but I made mistakes, and we're not together anymore. Nia nodded as if this made perfect sense. Did you say sorry? I'm trying to, he said, his gaze dropping to her drawing. What about you? You and your mom seem like a great team. We are. Nia's face lit up. Mama teaches me about hearts and how they pump blood. Did you know your heart beats 100,000 times a day? She says it's the strongest muscle even when it's sad. Jonathan leaned forward, captivated by her enthusiasm. I didn't know that. You're pretty smart. Mama says I can be an engineer or a doctor or both. Nia paused, her expression turning thoughtful. Sometimes I wonder about my dad, though. Like, does he like building things? Or does he have green eyes like me? His heart stopped, the air growing thick. What do you wonder about him? He asked carefully. Just stuff, she said, shrugging, but her eyes betrayed a quiet longing. Mama says he had to go away before I was born. He may be out there wondering about me, too. Jonathan's hands clenched, the weight of her words crushing him. He'd been hours away building a fortune while his daughter dreamed of a father who might care. I bet he does, he said, his voice thick. I bet he thinks about you daily and wishes to see how amazing you are. Really? Nia's eyes sparkled, a hopeful smile breaking through. He whispered, meaning it with every fiber of his being. Before he could say more, a cheerful voice called across the lobby. Nia, the school van's here. A daycare worker waved, and Nia began packing her supplies. Will you be here tomorrow? She asked, pausing to look at him. Jonathan glanced toward the cardiology wing where Amara was saving lives. I have another appointment, he said. So yes, I'll be here. Good. Nia grinned. I want to show you my robot book. You'll like it. As she skipped away, she turned back. What's your name? I can't keep calling you the sad man. Jonathan, he said, his voice catching. My name's Jonathan. Jonathan, she repeated, testing it. That's a cool name. I'm Nia, but you knew that. With a wave, she joined the other kids, leaving Jonathan in the tiny chair, staring at her Skybridge drawing. The Pine Street coffee shop hadn't changed in 7 years, its mismatched chairs and scratched wooden tables, steeped in the same cinnamon-scented charm that once cradled Jonathan Hayes and Amara Jackson's budding romance. Jonathan arrived early, his tailored jacket swapped for a simple gray sweater, his green eyes scanning the room nervously. He ordered 2 lattes Amaras with a sprinkle of cinnamon just as she liked, and claimed their old corner table where they'd first talked for hours. His hands trembled as he smoothed the napkin, the weight of this meeting heavier than any boardroom deal. Amara walked in at 6:30 sharp, her simple black dress hugging her curves, her hair falling in soft waves that caught the dim light. She paused at the door, her deep brown eyes wary, then softened as she saw the latte waiting. "You remembered?" she said, sliding into the chair across from him, her voice a mix of surprise and guarded warmth. "I never forgot," Jonathan replied, his tone rough with emotion. "Not this place, you, or a single moment we shared here." Her fingers wrapped around the mug, using it as a shield. "Then why did you leave?" The question cut through the air, sharp and raw, demanding an answer, 7 years overdue. Hey, Soulful Narratives fans, this is a big moment. Drop a comment. What would you say to someone who left you behind? Hit that like button and subscribe to catch every twist of this story. The narrator's voice slipped in, engaging the audience without breaking the scene's intensity. Jonathan leaned forward, his heart pounding. "I was scared," he admitted. "At 28, I thought success was the only way to be worthy of you. When Meridian Group offered unlimited funding, I believed building an empire would give us the life we deserved. I was wrong." Amara's eyes flashed, her voice low but fierce. "You didn't get to decide what I deserved, Jonathan. I deserved honesty, a conversation, a chance to choose with you. Instead, you left a note and vanished. Do you know what that felt like? Waking up to an empty apartment, calling you until my voice gave out." He winced, the memory of her 43 voicemails burning in his mind. "I listened to everyone," he said quietly. "I saved them. Played them repeatedly in my tiny Silicon Valley studio. But answering would make it more complicated for both of us. Harder." Her laugh was sharp, pained. "You blocked me out of your life like I was nothing. I found out I was pregnant 2 days after you signed with Meridian. I wanted to tell you in person to see your joy. But you were gone and I was alone." Jonathan's breath caught, confirming Nia's paternity hitting like a tidal wave. "She's mine," he whispered. Not a question, but a truth he'd felt since seeing her green eyes. Amara nodded, her expression crumpling momentarily before she locked it away. "Yes," she said, her voice barely audible. "I called you for weeks hoping you'd come back. By the time I realized you wouldn't, I was 12 weeks pregnant, grieving you and building a life for our daughter." "I'm so sorry," he said, the words inadequate but heavy with sincerity. "I thought I was protecting you from my chaos, the long hours, the uncertainty. I convinced myself that success would be enough for you." "You were enough," Amara said, her eyes glistening. "I loved you, Jonathan. I would have faced that chaos with you. But you chose your ambition over us." The silence stretched, filled only by the soft clinking of coffee cups and distant chatter. Jonathan reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away, but her hand stayed still, a fragile bridge between them. He said, "I turned down a $600 million deal last week," his voice steady. "Tokyo wanted me to relocate, but I said no. I'm not making that mistake again." Amara's eyes widened, searching his face. "You turned down $600 million. For you and Nia," he said. "My empire means nothing without you both." She stared at him, her defenses wavering. "That's a start," she said finally, her tone softer but cautious. "But trust isn't rebuilt with one choice. Nia deserves a father who stays no matter what. I need to know you won't run when it gets hard." I won't. He promised, his gaze locked on hers. Let me prove it. Amara, day by day. She looked at their joined hands, then pulled back gently. I need time, she said. For me, for Nia. This isn't just about us anymore. Jonathan nodded, his heart aching but hopeful. I'll wait, he said, as long as it takes. Amara paused as she stood to leave. Her eyes met his one last time. Don't miss your appointments. Nia's already noticed you. Don't let her down. He watched her go, the coffee shop's warmth fading with her departure. The latte grew cold, but the spark of hope in his chest burned brighter than ever. The Seattle Science Museum buzzed with the chatter of excited children and the hum of robotic displays, their lights flashing like tiny constellations. Jonathan Hayes stood outside the entrance, his navy sweater contrasting with the crisp October air, his green eyes scanning for Amara Jackson and Nia. He'd arrived early, clutching a carefully chosen gift, a junior builder. Bought kit, his heart pounding with anticipation and nerves. Today wasn't just a museum outing. It was a chance to prove he could be part of their world, a step toward the family he'd lost. Amara appeared, her green sweater catching the sunlight. Nia skipping beside her in a yellow dress patterned with gears, her braids bouncing with each step. Nia's green eyes lit up as she spotted him. Jonathan, she called, waving with unbridled enthusiasm. You came? Of course I did, he said, crouching to her level, a smile tugging at his lips. I wouldn't miss a day with two of my favorite people. Nia giggled, her joy infectious, while Amara offered a cautious nod, her deep brown eyes guarded but softening. Mama said you knew each other long ago, Nia said, her direct gaze pinning Jonathan. Were you friends? Hey, Soulful Narratives fans. Nia's stealing the show. Drop a comment. What's a fun memory of bonding with family? Hit that like button and subscribe to follow this heartwarming journey. The narrator's voice wove in, inviting the audience to share in the moment. Jonathan glanced at Amara, choosing his words carefully. We were very good friends, he said, his voice steady. Your mama's always been special. Nia tilted her head, considering this. Were you in love? Her bluntness caught him off guard, and Amara's cheeks flushed pink. Nia, Amara said gently, remember what we talked about. Some questions are personal, but I want to know. Nia protested, then looked at Jonathan. You look at Mama like Prince Eric looks at Ariel in my movie. Jonathan's laugh was warm and disarming. Your mama is pretty special, he said, sidestepping the question with a glance at Amara, who hid a smile. Come on, let's see those robots. Nia grabbed his hand, her small fingers sticky from a morning fruit snack, and pulled him into the museum. Her excitement was contagious as she darted from exhibit to exhibit, explaining mechanics with surprising clarity. Look at this one, she said, pointing to a robotic arm painting a canvas. It uses math to choose colors. Mama says math is like the heart's rhythm. It keeps everything working. Jonathan marveled at her insight, catching Amara's proud gaze over Nia's head. Your mama's a great teacher, he said. The best, Nia agreed. She never makes me feel silly for asking questions. They settled at a workshop table, the builder-bought kit spread before them. Nia took charge, her small hands deftly assembling components. This goes here, she corrected Jonathan, pointing to the diagram. If you put it backwards, the arm won't move right. You're right, he said, grinning. You're a better engineer than I. Mama says everyone makes mistakes. Nia said, her tone matter of fact. The trick is learning from them. Do you like learning new things? Jonathan replied. Especially when I've got a teacher like you, his heart swelling. Amara joined them, her presence grounding, and they worked together, debugging the robot's jerky movements. When it finally spun its arm smoothly, Nia cheered. We did it. Let's name it, Jonathan suggested, his voice soft. Any ideas? Nia thought for a moment, her green eyes bright. Link, she said, because it connects things like my sky bridge, and because we built it together. Jonathan met Amara's eyes, seeing a flicker of emotion, pride, hope, caution. Link's perfect, she said softly, her voice catching. Hey, isn't this family moment just adorable? Share in the comments what you'd name your robot. Smash that like button and subscribe for more. The narrator's prompt echoed, tying the audience to the scene's warmth. As they left the museum, Nia chattered about Link's upgrades. Can Jonathan come for Sunday brunch? She asked suddenly, bouncing on her toes. I want to show him my projects, and your pancakes are the best. Mama Jonathan looked at Amara, holding his breath. If he's free, she said carefully, her eyes searching his. No plans at all, he said quickly. 10 o'clock. Yay. Nia hugged his legs, her easy affection nearly undoing him. As she skipped ahead, Amara stepped closer, the afternoon light casting shadows across her face. She likes you, she said quietly. That's a big deal for her. I love her, Jonathan replied, his voice raw. She's incredible, Amara. You've done a fantastic job. Amara's smile was small but real. She's curious like you, she said, then paused. Be careful, Jonathan. She's starting to trust you. He promised I won't let her down, his heart full, as he watched Nia wave from the sidewalk, her gear-patterned dress, a burst of sunlight in his world. The fluorescent lights of Harborview Medical Center's conference room cast a harsh glow on Amara Jackson's clipboard, her neat handwriting detailing a patient's chart. She stood before the hospital board, her white coat crisp, her deep brown eyes steady despite the tension in the air. Dr. Larson, a senior board member with a skeptical penchant, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. He said, Dr. Jackson's tone was clipped, prioritizing a pro bono valve replacement over a scheduled procedure raises concerns about resource allocation. Explain your rationale. Amara's jaw tightened, her jasmine-scented lotion, a faint comfort against the room's sterile chill. The patient, a single father from her old neighborhood, couldn't afford the surgery that would save his life. Knowing the board's preference for high-profile cases, she'd fought for him. Mr. Thompson's condition was critical, she said, her voice firm. Delaying his procedure risked a fatal outcome. Our mission includes equitable care, and his case met urgent criteria. Larson's eyebrow arched, a familiar microaggression she'd faced since residency, but Amara held her ground, her confidence hard-earned. Hey, Soulful Narratives fans. Amara's standing tall. Drop a comment. Have you ever faced a tough call at work? Hit that like button and subscribe to follow this powerful story. The narrator's voice slipped in, engaging the audience with Amara's resolve. Later that evening, Amara stood in the community center of her childhood Seattle neighborhood, the air thick with the aroma of soul food, collard greens and cornbread served at a health fair she'd organized. Volunteers bustled, offering free blood pressure checks to families like the ones she'd grown up with. Nia darted through the crowd, her braids bouncing as she handed out flyers, her green eyes bright with purpose. Amara smiled, but her heart was heavy. Jonathan's return had stirred whispers among her friends, who now gathered around a folding table, their voices low but pointed. Amara, are you letting that tech guy back in? Asked Keisha, her best friend since high school, her tone protective. He walked out once, leaving you high and dry with Nia. Now he's back with his fancy suits and big promises. Amara sighed, her green sweater, a soft contrast to the vibrant chaos around her. He's trying, Keisha. He turned down a $600 million deal to stay here. Money doesn't mean loyalty, said Marcus, another friend, his brow furrowed. You and Nia built a good life. Why risk it for someone who chose his empire over you? Their skepticism echoed Amara's doubts, rooted in a community supporting her through single motherhood. She glanced at Nia, who showed a kid her Skybridge drawing, and felt a pang. Her community had been her anchor, and their shared history was a tapestry of resilience. But Jonathan's presence at the fair, standing awkwardly by the entrance, with a tray of donated coffee, complicated things. He'd insisted on helping his green eyes earnest, but his polished demeanor stood out, a reminder of the world he'd chosen over hers. Hey viewers, this community's got Amara's back. Share in the comments what community means to you. Smash that like button and subscribe for more. The narrator's prompt wove in, tying the audience to the scene's warmth. Jonathan approached, offering Amara a coffee. "Thought you could use this," he said, his voice tentative. The crowd's eyes followed some wary, others curious. Keisha's stare was challenging, but Amara took the cup, her fingers brushing his. "Thanks," she said, her tone neutral. "This means a lot to Nia." "And to you?" he asked, hope flickering in his eyes. She hesitated, the weight of her community's doubts pressing down. "It's a start," she said, echoing their coffee shop talk. "But trust is earned. Jonathan, not just with me, but with them." She nodded toward her friends who watched like guardians. Jonathan nodded undeterred. "He promised I'll keep showing up," then knelt to Nia's level as she ran over, clutching a flyer. "Jonathan, look. I gave out 10 already," she said, her grin wide. "That's amazing," he said, ruffling her braids. "You're a natural." Amara watched as Nia dragged him to the screening booth, her heart torn. Her community had carried her through the hardest years, their love as vital as her strength. But Jonathan's effort, his quiet presence, his willingness to face their scrutiny, stirred something in her. Could he fit into this world so different from his penthouse life? Could she let him try without risking Nia's heart or her own? The fair wound down families, dispersing into the Seattle dusk. Amara stood with Keisha, watching Jonathan help Nia pack up. "He's persistent," Keisha admitted grudgingly. "But be careful, girl. You and Nia deserve the real thing." "I know," Amara said, her eyes on Jonathan's smile, as Nia showed him her latest sketch. For the first time, she wondered if the real thing might include him. The soft glow of a nightlight cast dancing shadows across Amara Jackson's bedroom, its walls adorned with constellation charts and her blueprints for flying machines. She sat cross-legged on her bed, clutching a stuffed elephant, her green eyes wide as she strained to hear the hushed voices drifting from the living room. Amara Jackson's tone was low, tinged with worry, as she spoke to her mother, Grace, who'd come over to babysit while Amara worked a late shift. Nia's braids, loose from a day of play, brushed her shoulders as she leaned closer to the door, her heart racing. "I don't know, Mama," Amara said, her voice muffled, but clear enough. "Jonathan's trying, but what if he leaves again? Nia's already attached. I can't let him break her heart like he did mine." Grace's reply was gentle but firm. "He's Nia's father, Amara. You can't keep that from her forever. She's smart. She'll figure it out." Nia's breath caught her small hands tightening around the elephant. Father Jonathan, with his green eyes like hers, who built Link the robot with her, came to the health fair. Her mind raced, piecing together clues. His kind smile, how Mama looked at him, the stories of a dad who left. She slipped back under her covers, her heart jumbling with curiosity and fear. Hey, Soulful Narratives fans. Nia's world just shifted. Drop a comment. How would you feel learning a big family secret? Hit that like button and subscribe to stay with this emotional ride. The narrator's voice wove in, pulling the audience into Nia's pivotal moment. The next morning, Amara's modest apartment smelled of fresh coffee and pancakes, the Sunday brunch ritual Nia loved. Amara, in a soft blue sweater, flipped a pancake, her deep brown eyes tired but warm, as she watched Nia at the kitchen table, coloring a new skybridge design. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" Amara asked, sensing her daughter's quiet mood. Nia's crayon paused, her voice small. "Mama is Jonathan, my dad." Amara froze, the spatula slipping in her hand. She set it down, kneeling beside Nia, her jasmine scent grounding. "How did you know?" she asked gently, searching Nia's face. "I heard you and Grandma last night." Nia admitted, her green eyes glistening. "You said he's my father. Why didn't you tell me? Is he gonna leave again?" Amara's heart ached, her hand cupping Nia's cheek. "I wanted to protect you, baby. Jonathan left before you were born, and I wasn't sure he'd stay this time. But he's trying to be here for you now. He made a mistake, but he loves you." Nia's brow furrowed, her voice trembling. "But what if he goes away like before, like Tasha's dad did for work?" "He's promised to stay," Amara said, though doubt lingered in her eyes. "We're figuring it out together. Do you want to talk to him or ask him anything?" Nia nodded, her fingers tracing the sky bridge. "I want to know if he likes building things like me. And why did he leave?" Amara hugged her tightly, whispering, "You're so brave, my girl." Later that afternoon, Jonathan arrived at their apartment, his navy jacket swapped for a casual shirt, his green eyes nervous but warm. Nia sat on the couch, her elephant in her lap, watching him closely as Amara explained what Nia had overheard. Jonathan knelt before her, his voice soft. "Nia, I'm so sorry I wasn't here before. I'm your dad, and I made a big mistake leaving your mama. I want to be here now if you'll let me know." Nia's gaze was steady, searching. "Why did you go away?" she asked, her voice small but firm. Jonathan swallowed, choosing honesty. "Work was more important than family. I was wrong, and I missed so much. I'm here to make it right, to be the dad you deserve." "Do you like building things?" Nia asked, holding up her skybridge drawing. "This keeps families together. Would you make it with me?" "I'd love to," Jonathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're brilliant, Nia, and I'm so proud of you." Nia's smile was tentative, but real, a crack in her fear. "Okay," she said, "but you can't leave again. Mama's sad when you're not here." "I won't," he promised, his heart breaking and soaring. Amara watched from the doorway, her arms crossed, her expression a mix of hope and caution. "Hey, what a heartfelt moment. Share how you would handle meeting a parent for the first time in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe for more." The narrator's prompt echoed, tying viewers to Nia's courage. Amara felt a shift as Jonathan sat with Nia, sketching a new bridge design. Nia's trust was fragile, but her willingness to ask questions showed her strength. Could Jonathan prove himself to their daughter? Could Amara let him try, knowing the risk? For now, Nia's giggle as Jonathan drew a wonky bridge was enough to keep her hoping. The elevator to Jonathan Hayes's penthouse hummed softly, carrying Dr. Amara Jackson to the 42nd floor of a sleek Seattle skyscraper. Her black dress clung elegantly to her curves, but her deep brown eyes flickered with doubt as she smoothed the fabric, second-guessing her choice. Nia was at a sleepover with her friend Zoe, a rare night Amara had agreed to, prompted by Jonathan's gentle suggestion that they needed time to talk about the spark reigniting between them. The elevator doors opened, revealing a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows, showcasing the city's twinkling skyline. The luxury felt foreign, a stark contrast to her modest apartment. Jonathan appeared from the kitchen, his gray sweater hugging his broad shoulders, his green eyes warm but nervous. "You came," he said, a smile breaking through as he took the bottle of wine she'd brought. Amara said, "This place is impressive," her voice cautious as she scanned the sterile elegance marble counters. Modern art, a life built on wealth. "It's not home," Jonathan said softly, leading her to the windows. "Home is your kitchen on Sunday mornings. Nia's laughter and you." His honesty made her chest tighten, and she let him guide her to the dining table where he'd prepared pasta himself, the aroma of garlic and basil grounding the opulence. "Hey, Soulful Narratives fans. This night's getting intense. Drop a comment. What's your dream date night vibe? Hit that like button and subscribe to follow this emotional journey." The narrator's voice slipped in, engaging the audience with the scene's intimacy. They ate by candlelight, the city, a glittering backdrop. Conversation flowed easily. Nia's latest robot sketch, Amara's hospital challenges, memories of their college days at the Pine Street coffee shop. "Remember our first date?" Jonathan asked, over tiramisu, his smile teasing. "You dragged me to that heart exhibit, explaining ventricles like they were poetry." Amara laughed, the wine loosening her guard. "You kept muttering about market trends to hide how nervous you were. I was terrified you'd see." "I didn't deserve you," he admitted, his green eyes intense. "I still am." Her breath caught, and he reached for her hand, his touch electric. "Dance with me," he said, leading her to the living room, as At Last, by Etta James filled the air, their song from 7 years ago. Amara hesitated, then stepped into his arms, their bodies swaying, closing the distance of years apart. His warmth, his familiar scent of cedar and cologne, stirred memories of late-night dances in their tiny apartment. "I missed this," she whispered against his chest, her voice trembling. "I missed you. I missed you every day." Jonathan murmured, his lips brushing her hair. "The way you hum when you're focused and fit here makes me feel like you were made for me." Their dance slowed, and he tilted her chin up, his green eyes searching hers. "Amara." He whispered her name, a vow. She rose on her toes, and their kiss was tender, desperate, a collision of longing and forgiveness. It deepened, carrying 7 years of unspoken love, and Amara felt her walls crumble, her body melting into his. Hey, isn't this moment electric? Share in the comments. What song brings back memories for you? Smash that like button and subscribe for more. The narrator's prompt, wove in, tying viewers to the romance. In his bedroom, their connection became a reverent dance, each touching an apology and kissing a promise. Jonathan's hands traced her curves with care, as if memorizing her, and Amara's heart raced, overwhelmed by love and vulnerability. Later, curled against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her cheek, she felt whole for the first time in years. "Stay," he whispered into her hair. "Stay forever." "I'm here," she murmured. But even in the warmth of his arms, a flicker of fear stirred. As dawn crept through the windows, the penthouse's luxury felt cold, a reminder of their different worlds. Jonathan slept, his face peaceful, but Amara's mind raced. What was she doing? Her life was Nia, her community, her hard-won career. What place did she have in his world of wealth and ambition? She slipped out of bed, pulling on her dress and shaking her hands. Jonathan stirred, his green eyes clouding with concern. "Amara, what's wrong?" "This is a lot," she said, her voice strained. "Last night was perfect, but morning comes, and you're still Jonathan Hayes, tech mogul. I'm a single mom, living paycheck to paycheck. What happens when the novelty fades? When will your board call with the next big deal? I turned down Tokyo, he said firmly, sitting up. I chose you and Nia. This time, she countered, her eyes glistening. But what about the next? I can't lose you again, Jonathan. And I can't let Nia lose a father she's just starting to love. He reached for her, but she stepped back. I love you, he said, his voice raw. Let me prove I've changed day by day. I want to believe you, she whispered, tears falling. But I'm scared. For Nia, for me. She left the elevator's descent, mirroring her sinking heart, the memory of his touch lingering like a promise she wasn't ready to trust. Jonathan Hayes sat in his sleek corner office, the Seattle skyline, a glittering backdrop through floor-to-ceiling windows. His phone buzzed with a voicemail from Victor Grayson, his lead investor, the words sharp and impatient. Jonathan, the Yamamoto Group's $600 million offer expires tomorrow. Relocation to Tokyo is non-negotiable. This is your legacy. Don't let personal distractions derail it. Jonathan's green eyes stared at the city below, but he saw only Nia's sky bridge, drawing Amara's tearful departure from his penthouse, and the family he'd rediscovered. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, pulling him from his thoughts. Mr. Hayes, Roosevelt Elementary called. Nia Jackson listed you as an emergency contact. She needs to talk about her science fair project, which she says is urgent. Jonathan's heart skipped and he grabbed his jacket. Put them through, he said, urgency replacing indecision. Minutes later, he was speeding toward Nia's school, the weight of Grayson's ultimatum fading against the pull of his daughter's voice. Hey, Soulful Narratives fans. Things are heating up. Drop a comment. What would you choose? Family or fortune? Hit that like button and subscribe to catch this pivotal moment. The narrator's voice wove in, engaging the audience with the stakes. At Roosevelt Elementary, the principal's office was a cozy contrast to Jonathan's corporate world, its walls lined with student art. Nia sat across from him, her braids neat, her green eyes serious, as she clutched a crumpled science fair flyer. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice solemn. I know grown-ups are busy, but this is important. But I'm here now. You and your mama are my home, so you won't go to Tokyo. Nia's eyes searched his, hopeful but wary. No, he said firmly. Not Tokyo, not anywhere. He pulled out his phone, dialing Victor Grayson, as Nia watched wide-eyed. Victor, it's Jonathan, he said when the call connected. I'm declining the Yamamoto deal and stepping back from daily operations. Jessica Chen's ready to take over as CEO. My family comes first. The silence was deafening. Victor said, You're throwing away $600 million. His voice icy. Have you lost your mind? This is my life. Jonathan replied, his gaze locked on Nia's amazed face. And it's worth more than any deal. He hung up, the weight lifted from his shoulders. Nia, tomorrow at your science fair. I'll be there. Always. Nia threw her arms around his neck, her hug fierce. Promise, she whispered. Promise, he said, holding her close, her strawberry shampoo grounding him in this moment of clarity. The next day, the school gymnasium buzzed with excited kids and proud parents. Jonathan found Nia's project instantly a heart engine with clear tubes pumping red liquid mimicking circulation. It's called How Hearts Heal. Nia explained to the judges, her voice confident. When a heart's broken, like when someone leaves, it still pumps blood, but it's sad. When love comes back, it pumps joy instead. Jonathan's eyes stung her words, a mirror of their journey. A judge praised her insight, asking, Where'd you learn so much about hearts? My mama's a heart doctor, Nia said proudly. And my dad taught me that love makes hearts stronger. Jonathan's breath caught, hearing his dad from her lips. He scanned the crowd, spotting Amara near the back, her deep brown eyes shining with pride, but clouded with uncertainty. As the judges moved on, he approached her, the air thick with unspoken words. "She's incredible," he said softly, like her mother. "She worked so hard." Amara replied, her voice cautious. She wanted it to be perfect. Jonathan took a breath, and his decision became a lifeline. "I turned down Tokyo and Amara for good. I'm here for you and Nia, no matter what." Her eyes widened, searching his. For the first time, a flicker of trust broke through her doubt, a fragile bridge forming between them. The Roosevelt Elementary Gymnasium buzzed with the vibrant chaos of the science fair, its walls lined with colorful posters and humming with the chatter of proud parents and excited children. Jonathan Hayes stood near Nia Jackson's display, his navy jacket slightly rumpled from a morning of nervous pacing, his green eyes fixed on her heart engine project, an intricate model of clear tubes pulsing with red liquid, symbolizing love's healing power. Nia, her braids adorned with silver beads, explained her work to a cluster of judges, her green eyes sparkling with confidence. Amara Jackson stood at the back, her deep brown eyes shimmering with pride, though a shadow of uncertainty lingered from their penthouse night. Jonathan's hand grazed the small velvet box in his pocket, the ring he'd bought 7 years ago, a simple emerald band chosen when he dreamed of a future with Amara. His heart pounded as he watched Nia, her voice clear. When love comes back, the heart pumps joy instead of sadness. Her words, a mirror of their journey, steeled his resolve. He'd turned down a $600 million Tokyo deal yesterday, choosing family over fortune, and now he needed to prove that choice was forever. Hey, soulful narratives. Fans. This is a big moment. Drop a comment. What's the most heartfelt gesture you've witnessed? Hit that like button and subscribe to catch this emotional peak. The narrator's voice wove in, pulling the audience into the scene's anticipation. The judges awarded Nia second place, her ribbon a burst of blue against her gear-patterned dress. Jonathan cheered loudly, drawing amused glances, and scooped her up as she ran to him. "I'm so proud of you," he said, his voice thick. "You're the most brilliant scientist I know." "I had help," Nia said solemnly, glancing at Amara, who approached with a cautious smile. "Science is better with a team." Jonathan set Nia down, his heart racing as he faced Amara. The gymnasium's noise faded, and the crowd blurted with supportive faces, teachers, neighbors, Amara's friends from the health fair. "Amara," he said, his voice carrying over the din. "I need to tell you something." Her eyes narrowed, wary. "Jonathan, if this is about the other night, it's about our future." He interrupted, his hand trembling as he dropped to one knee. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Nia's eyes widened, clutching her ribbon. Jonathan pulled out the ring, its emerald catching the light. "Amara Jackson, I was too scared to choose you 7 years ago. I chose ambition over love and success over family, which cost me everything that mattered." Amara's hands flew to her mouth, her deep brown eyes glistening. Jonathan continued, "I turned down $600 million yesterday because I realized I already have everything I need. I have a daughter who builds hearts that heal and sees the world wonderfully. I have you, a woman who saves lives, who is stronger than I'll ever be, and gave me a second chance I don't deserve." Nia stepped closer, her small hand touching his shoulder. "Is this a proposal?" she whispered, her voice awed. Jonathan smiled, tears in his eyes. "It is, sweetheart. Amara, I love you and Nia more than anything. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend every day proving love is the only choice that matters?" The gymnasium fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Amara's tears fell, her voice barely audible. "Jonathan, I'm scared, but I love you. I've always loved you." She paused, glancing at Nia, whose hopeful grin lit the room. "Yes," she said louder now. "Yes, I'll marry you." The crowd erupted in cheers. Keisha and Marcus from the health fair, clapping loudest. Their skepticism softened by Jonathan's sincerity. Jonathan slipped the ring onto Amara's finger. It's fit perfect, after years of waiting, and pulled her into a kiss that tasted of forgiveness and forever. Nia squealed, wrapping her arms around them. "Group hug," she declared, and the trio clung together, a family forged through pain and promise. Hey, what a magical moment. Share in the comments, have you seen a proposal this moving? Smash that like button and subscribe for more. The narrator's prompt echoed, tying viewers to the joy. Amara's friends swarmed them as the fair continued, offering hugs and teasing jabs. "You better keep that promise," Keisha said, her smile warm but pointed. Jonathan nodded, his arm around Amara, Nia clutching his hand. Amara stood in a back room, her ivory gown shimmering its simple elegance, accentuating her curves. Her deep brown eyes sparkled as she adjusted her veil, her jasmine scent grounding her nerves. In a yellow dress with gear patterns, Nia bounced beside her, her braids adorned with tiny flowers, her green eyes bright. "Mama, you look like a queen," she said, clutching a small basket with rings tied to link their robot from the Science Museum. "You're my princess," Amara replied, kneeling to hug her, her heart full. Jonathan's steadfast presence. School pickups. Sunday brunches, quiet evenings sketching with Nia, had rebuilt her trust, though the fear of loss lingered faintly. Hey, Soulful Narratives fans, it's wedding day. Drop a comment. What's your favorite wedding memory? Hit that like button and subscribe to celebrate this joyful finale. The narrator's voice wove in, inviting the audience into the moment. Jonathan waited at a makeshift altar, his navy suit tailored, but relaxed, his green eyes misty as gospel music swelled a nod to Amara's heritage. Keisha, her best friend, stood as maid of honor, her protective gaze softened by Jonathan's growth. From the health fair, Marcus grinned from the front row, approving quietly. Nia led the procession, scattering petals, as Link rolled beside her, the rings glinting. The crowd chuckled, charmed by her pride, as maid of honor and ring-bearer. Amara appeared radiant, and Jonathan's breath caught. She walked alone, her confidence a crown, her smile anchoring him. As she reached him, he took her hand, whispering, "You're everything." The officiant, a hospital chaplain, began, her voice warm. "Do you, Jonathan, take Amara to be your wife? Love and cherish and choose daily for the rest of your life?" "I do," Jonathan said, his voice steady. "I choose you today, tomorrow, and always." "Do you, Amara, take Jonathan to be your husband, to trust and build a future together?" Amara's eyes met his, seeing the man who'd turned down a $600 million deal, earned Nia's trust, and faced her community's skepticism. "I do," she said, her voice full of joy. "I choose love. I choose our family." They exchanged rings, and the emerald band from 7 years ago was now joined by a new band for Jonathan. Their kiss was tender, sealing a promise forged through pain and perseverance, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Nia rushed forward, hugging them. She declared, "We're a team forever," and laughter rippled through the room. Hey, what a beautiful vow. Share in the comments. What makes a family strong for you? Smash that like button and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. The narrator's prompt echoed, connecting viewers to the emotion. The reception spilled into the coffee shop's cozy space tables, pushed aside for dancing. Jonathan and Amara swayed to "At Last" by Etta James, their college song, while Nia sketched robot upgrades nearby, giggling with Zoe. Keisha toasted them, her voice teasing, but warned Jonathan, "You proved us wrong. Keep it that way." The crowd laughed, and Jonathan raised his glass, his arm around Amara. He told Amara and Nia, "My home, my heart, my everything." Amara pulled Jonathan aside as guests mingled her jasmine scent enveloping him. "This is perfect," she said, her eyes glistening. "I was scared, but you showed up every day. I'll never stop," he promised, kissing her forehead. Nia ran over, waving a drawing, a new sky bridge with a heart engine. "For our family," she said, and they hugged her, their trio complete. The night ended with dancing gospel melodies blending with soulful beats, and the coffee shop was alive with love. Jonathan held Amara close, Nia between them, and realized success wasn't measured in dollars, but in this trust laughter, a family built on second chances. Wow, what a finale. Tell us in the comments, did this ending touch your heart? Like, subscribe, and share for more soulful narratives. The narrator's voice faded, leaving the glow of a new beginning.